Every team, every topic, everywhere. This is Believe.
This is Joey Aguilar, quarterback, App State, and you're listening to the Fun Belt Podcast.
This is the Fun Belt Podcast, part of the Believe Network.
Hosts Dusty Thibodeaux of Warhawk Report, Jeremy Harper of Howell Razor, and Shane Mettlen of the Daily News Record.
I think it's potentially a very good week for the Sun Belt.
But I'm just kind of going off on a random rant. It's just frustrating.
Welcome back to the Fun Belt Podcast. We're still at Sun Belt Media Days, day one. We just got off the mic with Tim Beck of Coastal Carolina and new head coach Del McGee for Georgia State. Great interviews from both those guys and their players. Is awesome. But now we've got a set of new interviews with Marshall, with JMU, and let's see what they got. We got the new head coach for JMU. What's his name? Bob Chesney.
Bob Chesney.
How did I forget that?
And the veteran, the Huff Shuffle himself, Charlie Huff.
Yeah, Huff will be here. I think he likes his team. I think he's going to tell us why. So let's get into it right now.
Yep.
BetOnline is your number one source for all your sports betting needs this season. From baseball, golf, soccer, right to all the top fights in the UCF, MMA, and boxing. Every stat, every matchup, and even live odds and spreads while the games are being played. When the game's over, head on over to our online casino and get in on some blackjack or poker, or unwind with one of our 150 slots games. Head to the website today to get in on the action. Use promo code BLEAV, that's BLEAV, for your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Bet online, the game starts here.
Okay, next joining us is new head coach for James Madison, Bob Chesney. He's brought with us Tajay Hudson. I got that right.
That's right.
And Jacob Dodds.
You got it.
We're going to see him in a couple of minutes, but first we're going to talk to Coach. Coach, welcome to the Sun Belt.
Yeah, thank you so much. I'm excited to be here. Great morning, great day. Little interesting travel day, but it all worked out.
Did you just come here this morning?
No. We came in last night, got here about 10:30, 11 o'clock after
wow.
2 different airports, a couple of cancellations, and we made it work.
Yeah, airline travel's been crazy lately, but also crazy has been probably the off season, trying to get your guys in. I know that the Coach Signetti took a lot of guys with him to Indiana, so you're rebuilding a roster. How was that process?
It's been great. 55 guys left, 64 new guys came in. So as you can imagine, that's a huge challenge. It's a huge challenge just finding sheer numbers of 64 guys like that, identifying them, and then figuring out how they fit in, right? And what is the right combination of them. But then they get there, and the next phase is, okay, well, the number one concern you will have is, will they play together, right? Will they play together, and how quickly can you get them to play together? So it became pretty evident to me we needed to get in a community. This community of Harrisonburg, there's an energy about it like no other. And I think it's one of those things that, like, I just love watching that community interact with us. But I haven't seen us or heard of us interacting much with the community. So we, over this past spring, did over 500 hours of community service at elementary schools and a lot of different places. But it was a big thing for us, but it was also important for us to get in the community, but also important for us to get together and make it more about the personal side of things rather than just the football side of things.
Listen, you just talked about the energy in Harrisonburg, and yes, but there's also something else in Harrisonburg, and that's an expectation for winning. Does that put any pressure on you?
I mean, what's professor? I was at Johns Hopkins, and we had a great coach named Jim Margraf, and he used to say that pressure is reserved for soldiers and surgeons, right? And I thought that was a pretty interesting
Not
way.
for head coaches.
Yeah, it was a pretty interesting way to talk about it. To me, expectations are what you're all going to talk about.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about standards, right? And every single day, our standards are being employed. Every single day, our standards are on display. Expectations are going to be the outside world, what they talk about. We're going to have our goals, right? But our goals are for people that want to win once. Our systems and standards are for people that want to win continually. And that's something we spend a lot of time on and really talk a lot about. So it's the day-to-day standards that will hopefully have us live up to your outside expectations, but ultimately all we can control is what we do today.
As a new coach coming in, what is the worst thing that you hear at James Madison? Is it, well, Signetti did it this way, or well, you were only at Holy Cross, and that's an FCS school.
Yeah. You know, it's funny because, and maybe it's because Signetti came from an FCS school.
Yeah.
Maybe because we were just an FCS school. And maybe because a lot of the guys that did it the way Signetti did it are no longer here anymore. I don't really hear either of those up to this point in time. I think that people understand that there's been a lot of change that have gone on, not only with the roster, but with the way that we're right-sizing this to a modern-day college football program. And I think people understand within the program that there's advances being made, there's accelerations happening within this program that are putting us in a position to be different than what we were before while not losing what made us great. And I think that is really my goal, is to figure out a way to, how do we get this to a point that we don't lose what made us great and at the same time advance and accelerate this program into something even more. And that's my job.
What's the one mark that you're wanting to kind of start or even leave this year in your inaugural year with James Madison, really their inaugural year in FBS?
Yeah,
officially.
I think what I watched on film is what I want to continue to, employ here. I think if you put up Holy Cross film, I think if you put up Assumption College film, if you put up any film that you'd have seen from us in the past, you would see inspired, right? Inspired football. And that, to me, is what I want to do. I want our team to play in an inspired brand of football. They get to play football every single day. They don't have to play football every single day. That's what I want them to understand. And that's what I think we've done a great job of.
So, Coach Chesney, coming from Holy Cross, were you able to bring some players or some personnel from Holy Cross to help you with that transition?
Absolutely. So we have 4 players that came with us, all that exhausted their eligibility at Holy Cross. And then, for me, I did not get here by myself. I think it's always interesting when I watch a coach go on to the next level and leave everybody behind. Like, he did it by himself, right? And I think for me, I understand that's not the case. Now, there is different roles that maybe people have to come into, but a lot of guys, I've offered every single guy that was with us an opportunity to come with us. Not in the exact same role, but to come with us, make their situation better and live out their dreams. Because again, I did not do it by myself. So we did have quite a bit of guys that came with us from Holy Cross in all different sort of positions. And, that's where we find ourselves today.
So joining us on the show is a couple of Coach Chesney's players, Tajee Hudson, junior wide receiver, Jacob Dobbs, linebacker. We got a lot of linebackers joining us at the table.
I guess this is a defensive league this year.
Yeah, they're all about the defense. Who talks more shit, linebackers or wide receivers?
I think it's wide receivers.
Okay.
I'm not gonna lie. Linebackers do a lot more talking with their pads.
I would say
okay,
me.
all right,
I think the
I wouldn't
pads
say
do more
receivers.
talking.
I wouldn't say receivers, but I would say me for
Just
sure.
me.
Oh, okay, because you have to bring a lot of moxie to the field. I get
Most
that. yeah.
definitely.
Taj brings a lot of personality. That's what we love about him, though.
Well, then, speaking of personality, you lost a great personality behind center, Jordan McLeod. Now he's an enemy at Texas State.
Right.
First of all, we don't know who's going to be the new quarterback. I'm sure that you're not willing to talk about that now. But how has adjusting to another quarterback, how has that been a challenge for you?
Right. Well, we had a great quarterback room already. Adding Dylan Morris only helped. Bringing in freshman J.C. Evans only helped. And I feel like just being able to connect with all of them on and off the field has been great. I feel like we have a great room and their experience as well.
James Madison has a great offense. He's had a great offense for the last few years. Defense, a little underrated, I think. I think it's a defense that really keeps you guys in games. What's the magic sauce to that James Madison defense?
Yeah, no, I think in years past it's been a great defensive line, great linebacker play, and then an unbelievable secondary to, put it all together. And I think for us, going into this season, we're really going to be big on leverage and matchups. We're going to try to leverage offenses in try to see how they're going to attack us on a weekly basis and really make them go to their next best thing, not their best thing. And then, we want to put ourselves in the best matchup possible so that we have our guys on defense in the best situations that fit them as football players.
Didn't go. The season didn't end last year how you wanted it to, falling in the bowl game, but able to make it to a bowl game with the waivers and everything else. But you kick off this season with the American Conference of Charlotte. How big is that game, not only as a regional game, but also kind of showcasing yourself against the good P5 of the American Conference?
It's very big to be able to see, not necessarily conferences, but to be able to see where we are as a team, be able to go out there and experience a game together, have fun doing it. And I feel like we're just taking it day by day, step by step, being intentional with everything we do. And Charlotte is the main goal and focus right now. We're very excited for that game.
I got a question for Dobbs. Signetti, man, very intense guy. At least intense to the media. I don't know. Maybe he was a
Intimidating.
Yeah. Maybe he was a bag of joy in the locker room. Oh, you weren't here for Signetti. You were here for Signetti.
sir.
I'm sorry. My apologies. How is Coach Chesney different from Coach Signetti?
Obviously, they both win a lot. But I believe the intention, as I just mentioned, is a little bit different, bringing everybody together, being the best you can be at that day, relationships in the community, the players, the coaches, just bringing everybody together because obviously we have a new team. Almost everybody in the country has a new team. But just what we do every day, bringing everybody together, having energy in and out, being able to do what we're able to do, and it being a choice, you know what I'm saying, and we're not having to do it. Him letting us know it's a choice and just having energy with doing everything we do.
So, Dodd, Coach is not sitting next to you at all. So,
Yeah.
so you're safe.
left.
You're in a
He got
safe
up.
space. You're in the circle of trust. Tell us, what can we expect from his leadership, his taking over the James Madison program in the Sun Belt?
Yeah, I mean, I think Coach Chesney's biggest thing is it's a transformational process with each player that he coaches. He really tries to get to know people on a personal level, not just as football players, but as people. And I think that, helps, young men buy into his program and really believe in, each other and not just themselves as individuals. And I think that's the biggest thing. And I think we're going to be a very disciplined football team. We take special teams seriously. That's the most important aspect of the game. If you're a really good football player, you're going to play special teams and you're going to give every single thing you have on every rep of any special teams drill, period, whatever it is. And I think that's where it starts because you win games on special teams. And then, we're just going to, be a very disciplined football team that's not going to beat themselves. And, we pride ourselves on being a physical football team every single week, no matter who we're playing.
You obviously won't get to go head-to-head with him, but Jason Henderson, another great linebacker in this league at Old Dominion. Have you kind of watched film of him to kind of see how linebackers play in this league?
I haven't personally been able to watch film on him yet, but I've heard a lot of great things about him as a football player. He gets a lot of national recognition for the amount of production he's been able to have at that spot with the amount of tackles. I think he's been, an 100-tackle guy for the last 2 or 3 years even maybe, but just an unbelievable football player. And, it's a pleasure to be in a conference and, be able to compete against him and his team, in that East Division.
Taj, you did get to go against him. What'd you see out of a guy like Jason Henderson?
I even faced him when I was at my previous school, East Carolina, and just being able to see him fly around the field, and main thing, just him being a leader and his presence, even if he doesn't speak, just his presence on the field. I believe he's a great leader for their team, and he flies around the field.
Has he tackled you?
No. I hope he doesn't.
So, looking at this game, James Madison's always been the big target. Maybe it's because of Signetti and the way he was kind of over the top with everybody. But that really puts a target on James Madison. Do y'all circle any games more so than others, especially in Sun Belt Conference play?
I believe we circle ourselves, being intentional again, every day, just competing with each other, competing with the coaches, and being able to have fun while we do it, and just being intentional every single day, being a player-led team. You know what I'm saying? Coach Chesney giving us the platform to be able to, as leaders, to lead the players, the other players, and just being able to do it together and intentional. I don't think we have anybody circled besides ourselves, and just being able to get better each and every day, being the best we can be.
I ask you because it's always the offensive guy that wins it. Did you try on the Sun Belt MVP belt?
No, not yet.
Not yet. I love it. Guys, we thank you so much for joining us. Looking forward to seeing James Madison atop the Sun Belt East again and competing for the title this season.
Thank you.
For real this time.
For real.
Thanks.
All right, you hit the record button. All right, that's always good. That's always good.
Half the battle.
All right.
Coach Huff joins us for year number 4, leading the herd. Coach, 6-7 last year, not able to get it done in the bowl game, but still in the bowl game. What's the expectations coming into year 4 for you?
Well, I think, again, for us in-house, our expectations are always the same. We want to go out every week and continue to improve. We want to put ourselves in position to win every game. And we want to be able to maximize our opportunities, however they may come. I think when you start putting external expectations internally, your focus gets messed up. So for us, it stays the same. We've got to own, our past. Part of owning something is taking advantage of it and learning from it. There were a lot of positives. There were a lot of things we could have did better, but they were all learning experiences. We got to apply those to the guys that are back, and get the new guys that are in the program, coaches included, to understand what we learn, what we can improve, and be ready for next year.
It's always a thing of change. So you get a new offensive coordinator, Seth Doge. Did I say it right?
Daggy. Yeah. Just
right,
like
Thibs.
teach you how to Daggy when you were like dancing back in 3-4 years ago. And
We're about the same age, Coach. So
well,
don't date us.
Yeah, us. Yeah.
But you have the Nick Saban lineage. He has the great lineage of Mike Leach. How great is that to really have all these legends of the game that are kind of influencing your program?
Well, I think, again, respect to those guys for sure. Coach Saban obviously shaped and changed my career. But what you see is a different level of detail from the people that have worked from some really good coaches, and those two aren't the only ones. You see a different level of focus. You see a different level of intentionality. You see a different level of confidence because your plan or your process works. And then what you see is it trickles down to the players. When you come into the room or you come into the building confident, organized, and detailed, the players can see that. They respect that. And then they're open and more willing to learn. And as long as they're open and willing to learn, you can improve them. So it's really good. And there's a lot of other guys on our staff that have worked for some really good coaches. But usually what you see in those scenarios is you get really good intentionality, you get really good detail, you get really good organization because those guys typically had that. People kind of laugh at Mike Leach because he appeared to be a little bit of, kind of a free bird, kind of loose. But he's very detailed in exactly what he wants to do. He's very consistent in his plan. The things that we consider detailed or we consider, hey, you got to wear a suit, those things didn't matter to him. But when you talk football with Coach Daggy, there were a lot of things that Coach really, felt that details were important on, really things that he stood on. And obviously when you have that kind of success in your career, that shows.
Coach, really kind of a struggle last year. Had high points and low points. There was sort of maybe came a little short of expectations last year. We talked to Phil Steele, and he has very high expectations for Marshall this year. Do you feel like that whatever plagued Marshall last year has been resolved for this year's roster?
Yeah, Phil Steele knows because I'm the one that talked to Phil Steele. Like the rest of these people who've put out these predictions, they've never talked to me, so they don't know what we have in the building. They don't know what we have on the team. They don't know how I feel about it. They make these predictions, which is great. Trust me, I respect it. But when I talked to Phil, I was very open and candid. Phil and I have had a really good relationship for a long time. I think I can be open and truthful with him because I want to validate what he does. We feel great. We have no issues because we know what we have, And again, part of the world we live in now with transfer portal and the new landscape, you don't know. You got X, Y, and Z transfer from such school, but you don't know how he gels or how he fits with the new team or another team. I think what happens a lot of times is people put expectation on your parts. Well, hey, they got this player from X, Y, and Z school. They got this player from X, Y, and Z school. But they can't put an expectation on the sum of those parts. How do those players gel with coaches? How do those players gel with each other? How do those players gel at Huntington? There's a lot of guys that have come to us that didn't have really good situations the other places and have been phenomenal. But you can't judge that in a preseason poll. You can't judge that in a preseason. You got to judge that by being out there in the summer. You got to judge that by sitting a kid in your office and telling, the kid telling you, Coach, this is my last chance to get my mom, dad, and my sister, my brother out of the situation they're in. The other school I was at, although I had big school, big logo, big money, I didn't take advantage of it. So I want to be focused. I want to do extra. Like, you can't judge that. So for us, we feel great. Now, don't get me wrong. At the end of the day, we still have to execute.
Sure.
At the end of the day, we are what we are. We are 6-7 football team that are trying to improve every single day on the things that matter. But if you came in our building, you wouldn't think we were 6-7.
Gotcha.
You wouldn't think that the issues that we had last year were there this year. So yes, I think Phil Steele is right.
Well, of course, he's the prince of prognostication.
Yeah, I feel good about Phil's expectations.
It's always good to be on Phil's good side. Coach Huff joins us on the show, and he brought with him, Thibs, some beef. We've got Logan Osborne. He's the center for the Marshall Thundering Herd and also second team, named on the All Sun Belt second team. And we got Michael Green, who's on the defensive line. Welcome to the show, guys. I have a question for you, Logan. New quarterback this year. We don't know who it is, right? You're still trying to figure it out. But what kind of challenge is that? You had a quarterback you worked with last year. Is there a challenge breaking in a new guy, or is it just like the system kind of works itself?
I mean, the way you break the challenge is through reps, and we take a lot of reps. And, we didn't have, Cam was hurt some games last year, and we had to throw in Cole. And that just comes from getting extra snaps with them and just going out through practice and making the most of those opportunities that we have. So I really don't – I've been through a bunch of quarterbacks. I played a long time. And, I don't see a big challenge with it. We rotate a lot of guys. So, I think we're in a good spot.
I just got a comment before we talk football. Michael Green with the big M. He has bought into the Marshall Thunder and Herd, buying the bling already.
And the drip is
that's
superb,
exactly
too.
what that's for,
Yeah.
right? That's exactly what it's for. So you transfer in from Virginia. How did that kind of come about of you're in the P5 and I think there's always the stigma, right, of you're dropping down into the G5 from there. What was kind of your situation and how did Marshall kind of come on your radar?
So when I was at Virginia, we just got a new coaching staff, and I wasn't really fitting into what they had going on. I hit the portal, and Marshall hit me up December the 6th. I remember the day like it was yesterday. And then they were the only Group 5 or any no P5 schools even hit me up at the time. So then I took my visit, and the very next day after I got in contact with them, I came down to Marshall. I liked everything everybody was saying. I liked the town. I loved that it was a university town, a college town, as some would say, and everything just lined up with what I wanted. So I felt like Marshall was just like the place that was better for me. I know everybody kind of has that stigma of you're dropping down in conference. But ultimately, we had more people go to the league last year than most of the P5 schools or some of the P5 schools. And I know we had more people that went to the league than Virginia. So I feel like it doesn't really matter where you are. I feel like it matters how you're producing at the school that you're at and how good that you fit in the scheme.
So you're in the circle of trust. You don't have to lie. It was the helicopter, wasn't it?
It was we didn't really. I didn't have the helicopter when I came in.
You didn't get the helicopter.
Coach
Come
Huff has
on,
changed
man.
now. I'm all into the gimmicks and everything. Yeah, they didn't get that. It was like, you coming or not?
See, no, it's a new toy, and he doesn't want to share.
That's right. Yeah, that's right.
He saved it for last.
Coach Huff, you got the Sun Belt East is a very tough conference. It's always going to be tough. Great teams in it, but you didn't do yourself any favors with the out of conference either. Visiting Virginia Tech, okay, but then visiting Ohio State. Is that a too tough a OOC, or do you welcome that challenge?
Well, I think, obviously in today's football, you got to be willing and you got to be flexible because scheduling is difficult, right? Some schedules are already out for 2040. That's the first thing. With our conference in the Sun Belt East, I don't know if you can have a good out of conference schedule because regardless of who you play, you still got to, stare it on the barrel of one of the toughest conferences in college football, in my opinion, when you still talk about divisions. So, again, there's always a method to the madness. There's give and take on why we do what we do out of conference, or obviously with our scheduling. But, again, because of the conference we're in, we could schedule 4 high schools and we would still have a tough out of conference schedule with the schedule we have. So we embrace it. I think it's an opportunity. I think times have changed now. 10 years ago when you were playing some of these Autonomy 5, I think is what we're calling it now. When we were playing some of these schools, it was, kind of big brother, little brother. 2 years ago we played Notre Dame. We had 6 guys on the team that had played Notre Dame the year before. So it's a little bit more parity. I still think there's obviously a depth and financial disparity between the two levels. But as far as on the field, there's a little bit more parity with the transfer portal and guys moving around.
Logan, how difficult is it knowing that, you've been there, you've been through the thick and thin of Marshall, but the guy sitting next to you in the locker room on the offensive line might not be there tomorrow, so to say, with the portal. Does that make it kind of difficult to gel as offensive line and even as a teammate from different units?
For sure. I mean, there's always going to be challenges with that. Like, I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, it's all rainbows and sunshine. No, sometimes it's hard seeing guys coming through. You know, one of my best friends transferred last year at the end of the season, and that hurt. But, you know, I believed in what Coach Huff was telling me, and, you know, I made the decision to come back, and I'm glad I did. But with the transfer portal, you got to learn, you know, not to be comfortable. You know, guys are going to come and go, and you have to be willing to be able to accept that, I think.
And, Mike, on that same note, you know, you're coming in where these guys have been together for a while. How do you kind of acclimate yourself into the new environment and really show that you're going to be the key contributor?
Like I said, I feel like it depends on how well you fit into a scheme. I know a lot of guys like to bounce around in the portal. We got guys that came from multiple different schools. We're in the process right now of becoming a team, and I feel like once we become a team, that we could take things to the next level, and ultimately just like compete at the highest level.
I think we can let them go.
That's all we got for you. Greatly appreciate y'all's time there, guys.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for visiting with us.